In this video, I want to showcase the power of the F9 button in Excel, which will help visualize parts of your calculation. In this case, I'll be using SumIf as an example, with my numbers over here on the left and a threshold. I want to say I only want to sum these numbers if the criteria, that is the value itself, is greater than the value found in this cell. I want to anchor this because that will be relevant later. So you already saw a bit here when I hovered over the range. You can see that it gives me the values inside curly brackets with semicolons as separators. And this is what you can do if you press F9. If I select the range again and I press F9, it will convert the reference, that is A1 through A10, into the values they represent. So now it's saying I want to take this array, in other words multiple values, and for each of these I want to compare them and only include the ones that fulfill this criteria. In this case, only include the numbers that are greater than 5, which means these 5 numbers. The danger of using F9 is that if I just do it again and I press enter or I click away, first of all it's going to get mad at me and it won't let me do it. But if I do it again, this time using sum, if I convert A1 through A10 into the values and I hit enter, this is now hard-coded, which is going to be annoying because if I forget to change this, if I just press F9 in the middle of a larger calculation and I then want to actually go back, I end up with hard-coded values, and if I forget to fix this, I can be in a world of hurt in the future. So I always recommend, if you use F9 to check your calculation, make sure to press the escape key. I can visualize the SumIf function even more if I break it into its parts. So actually what it's doing is, for each cell inside this range, I want to compare the value by checking if it's greater than the value in D1 and only then keep it. So actually what it does is, it says take the value in A1 through A10 and check if that value is greater than the value in D1. And I can highlight this and also press F9, or I can check up here once I've highlighted everything. I can see that this returns an array with false because the first 5 values are less than 5 and the last 5 are true because 6 and upwards are greater than 5. Here I made the mistake of pressing escape, which is why normally if I want to check my formulas using this method, I want to always press enter first and then I can highlight it, press F9 and press escape. And right now I'm in Excel 2016, which means I can't print multiple values. If I was in Excel 365, this would be recognized as an array formula, and all of these values would be spit out using the spill functionality. But I can't do that. That means Excel will only print the last value in my array, which is true because 10 is greater than 5. In order to visualize this even further, because this calculation is only the criteria, after it has calculated the criteria, it then needs to actually do the sum. And as I explained in another video, multiplying with false is the same as multiplying with 0, and multiplying with true is the same as multiplying by 1, meaning what actually happens is that this is just the first part, and this is the criteria which then returns 0 and 1, because it returns false and true. Then it multiplies the result of this array. So this creates an array of true and false, or zeros and 1, and then I want to multiply that by the array itself. And once again, I can use F9 to visualize the parts of it. So a bunch of falses and trues multiplies by the actual values. I can visualize the process a bit more using the Control-Shift-Enter expression inside Excel 2016. So if I take this again, my original check, which should return false and true, going to spit that inside the first cell and then copy that down. And then with the entire array selected, I can say Control-Shift-Enter and it will spit out my array. And then it's smart enough to understand that here in the 8th row, it should return the 8th value. I can then visualize the second step, which once again is this part, multiplying the array of false and trues with the actual values. And this was a problem where if you press enter after pressing F9, you end up having a problem with copying it. So I actually want to copy this portion and spit that here. So now I've selected the entire array that I want to print in before I do the calculation, which was to multiply the false and trues with the original values and then Control-Shift-Enter, which didn't exactly give me the result I wanted. I think my problem was that here I'm actually taking the first array, which needs to be calculated, and then multiplying by the second array, which doesn't have to be calculated. Because if I instead say, okay, writing the formula in G1, I want to take the value of F1 through F10 and multiply that with A1 through A10. And then remember to say Control-Shift-Enter. And this definitely works because F1 is false, so false times 1 is 0. And in the 6th row, 6 is greater than 5, so it returns true, and true times 6 is then 6. And then lastly, it's just a sum of the final values. And if I then want to do this in one go, I can instead say sum, take this true-false array, multiply that by the original values, and then I need Ctrl-Shift-Enter, which gives me what I expect. But of course, instead of having to do this, where I need an array to calculate my false and trues, and putting that inside sum, I can go back and actually use the function designed for this, the SumIf, which does all of this hard work for me, simply saying, okay, well, this is my array that has both values and the condition, and my condition is then greater than and the threshold. So they give the same output, and one is a lot easier. But the point was to show how you can use F9 to validate your formulas. Alternatively, you can break the formula into multiple steps, like I've done in this video, and then you can see what's going on and what's going wrong. So